Hi, I'm Tam,
And I'm Eternally Mortal.
and this is the Hidden Egg Podcast, where we talk about vulnerability.
Huzzah!
So last week we did some stuff.
Yeah, last week the podcast did not end up happening because of an injury that we had to go take care of. That we spent probably far longer than we really needed to at an urgent care. But just wanted to make sure that everything was okay after a bit of a sprain.
Yeah, I was just in case anybody's wondering, is it okay if I tell this stupid story?
Yeah, tell the story. Absolutely.
I was in the backyard and every morning I go out there to like water potatoes and stuff and I was going to do some yard work. And I went out in these like sort of flippy floppy kind of things. They're not quite Crocs, but they look kind of like Crocs. Long story, but they're that kind of shoe. And I was thinking to myself, maybe I should change my shoes. But I was like, nah, it's just my backyard. While I'm working out in the backyard, something big buzzes by my head, scares the crap out of me. I instinctively started running. No thought, just run. And my shoes that weren't quite all that great on my feet to begin with slipped on, I guess, a branch, or not a branch, just a stick. And so then, like, that slipped the shoe underneath my foot to where it flew off somehow. And my foot went on the ground and, like, did this weird twisty thing that was terrible and awful and painful.
Bad times.
Bad times. Bad times.
And there was a noise that we wanted to get checked out just in case there was any sort of a fracture that happened. So we went to urgent care.
Right. And Dr. Google says that even without a noise or additional pain, any sprain has the potential to break a bone.
Right.
The bones in your feet are real sensitive. So, I'm 40 now. I can't just be like, "Oh, I'll bounce back."
Yep. So that's what we ended up doing. We were potentially going to try and record afterwards, but it took a bit longer than we expected because urgent care.
Right.
Um, so yeah. So unfortunately, last week was a bust, and this week, since we're a little kind of off kilter with a week missed, instead of going with
The
some
normal
topic,
format.
right, a regular topic, I think we're gonna be a little personally vulnerable, and I'm gonna talk about an issue that I've been going through recently.
Oh,
How do you feel about that? You
I
cool
feel
with that?
great about that.
So, because the reason why I think it's okay to talk about it on the podcast is because my problem is that I'm actually kind of afraid to write um, a story.
Now, this doesn't have anything to do with me forgetting that your articles existed that
No.
I was to edit.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna bring that up, but
So we do this thing where he writes an article and then he sends it to me through one of my publications that doesn't do anything.
a dead publication.
It is basically a dead publication, and the only purpose is so that I can look through it and put some spaces here and there, make some paragraphs, do a little bit of formatting, and just kind of let him know if there's any difficulties. So basically, edit the thing.
Right, and this was, from my very first article, my very first attempt to write something that was going to be seen by people ever. So, like,
Right.
I certainly knew the basics of writing, no doubt. But I tend to wall of text a lot. I'm sometimes a little loose with my paragraphs. I don't always like tie all my thoughts together. I sometimes leave a sentence or two out, and just kind of like, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Sometimes. But so I've actually really benefited greatly from your help. So thank you, Tam. Appreciate that.
Oh, that's not what I brought it up for. I was just worried that me not. Thanks, Windows security. I was just worried that me not doing it may be what's causing you to be afraid.
No. No, my fear is that I'm afraid to reduce infinity.
Can you, though? Can you reduce infinity?
Not actually, but if I'm going to decide to write anything, I have to exclude so many things.
But if you don't write about something specific, And then you're not writing at all, which means you're not adding to infinity, which means it's zero.
Right, what I'm adding is zero, but that's not my issue. I don't really care about that because I've been adding zero for a very long time and it hasn't really made me super uncomfortable. Like it's over time has made me a little uncomfortable because I do want to create. I don't even know if I get to call myself an artist because I've never really like attempted to get in there and do some
Arden.
artin. Um, the what dozen or so articles that I've written uh, are just like me opening up my face hole and allowing whatever's in there to spew out for a few minutes to see what people think about it.
Is
If
that
people
not what
even,
writing really is at the
I
end
mean,
of the day?
there's a lot of writers that put a lot more attention and focus into it that may feel a little offended by you saying that.
I feel like that focus and attention happens after you do that initial part. You have to sort of like purge what's in you. And some people do that as, a free write thing before they actually get to what they intend to write. But like even then, even when it's not part of your free writing, don't you just kind of think, monkeys. I need to write about monkeys. And then just kind of blah, whatever is in your brain about monkeys that you can. And then you go through and you're like, I need a source here. And then you do some research and then you come back and then you blah, whatever you just researched. You know, isn't it kind of always that way? Is that not what writing is?
Sure, I
Maybe I
think.
see things differently.
Well, what is your ultimate like intent with that with those words? Like, what are you trying to communicate across
Well,
to
I
me?
mean, if that's what you see writing as, then is your fear related to the fact that maybe you just don't want to, open up your face hole and let your thoughts spew out? Like, are you afraid of your thoughts?
Oh, it's a possibility. It's difficult to know what the fear is deep down at this particular moment. Although that's what I'm
Mm.
trying with being this vulnerable, fucking live to an audience. Well, not live, but well,
Well,
kind
it's
of live.
kind of live. Nobody's
But
here, but it is
still,
live.
and all those future people I was talking about
All
definitely
the
can hear.
future people.
Um,
Well, they can now. We're recording now. When you
oh yeah, that's
started it,
true.
we weren't recording.
See, I told you that technology existed. Anyway, um, so great. That's great, Kitty. Hi.
So we can't close the door that usually shuts him off from our recording, because if we shut the door, then there won't be any AC in this tiny little room that we're recording in, and we will die of heat exhaustion. So
It will be
pardon the
fine.
cat noises.
Well, I might decide to close the door anyway and make us suffer. It'll be fine. If I choose what it is that I'm going to write,
Hmm.
then I am cutting off infinity. I'm telling everything else that it's not good enough. And I hate that. I feel like I'm disrespecting my other ideas.
Conversely, if you just sit down and let whatever is in there just come through, aren't you just becoming a vessel for infinity and allowing the specific thoughts that it wants you to express to come out?
Okay, regardless of what my words, oh, this is going to be so fucking meta. Okay, regardless of what I'm saying to you, the ultimate issue that I'm having is the decision to sit down and do exactly what you just said.
Oh, okay. What, but um, apparently,
I don't think you need to.
yeah, okay, whatever. I got a message.
It happens.
We'll move on.
Yeah, we got cat noises, we got Discord noises. It's gonna be awesome. I love this so
Noises
much.
all over the place.
We're continuing our scuffed run, and it's fantastic. Episode 15.
So, but if you're having trouble sitting down, then why doesn't the idea of you sitting down, honoring the universe, honoring infinity, combat that concern of choosing from infinity? Because you're not making the choice of what to write about when you sit down. You're just making the choice to listen to what infinity, what part of infinity wants to express itself through you at that moment. You're just giving it the opportunity.
Right. I just haven't decided to sit down at a point and be open like that. I don't know why yet. Well, every time I've written so far, it has been that I finally had an idea that I felt like was important enough to write about while also feeling like I might have enough to say that would be worthwhile. Like, I have to check so many boxes before I sit down to write. And I think I'd be better off if I just sat down to write. But the decision to sit down to write doesn't happen unless I have a more focused idea. And so I just keep killing
Yeah,
my own motivation.
it sounds like if writing were a plant, you are pruning it before it even gets big enough to be able to handle taking off those branches. It's like you're sitting down after you've already decided, okay, I've got something to say, so I definitely have something to write. So now I know sitting down isn't going to just end up being a waste of time, which I don't get because you love wasting your time. So like, why wouldn't that be like the perfect thing for you, just to sit down and never do anything and just stare at the screen? You would love that.
It's
But
not quite the same.
but on top of that, you're also cutting off, okay, well, this is a thought and I could really write about it, but does it help other people? Does it sound good enough? Like you're already like judging all of these
I
things,
know.
which I can totally get why that would cause you to be afraid to write, because there's a muse, there's a writing self inside of you. And if it's giving you all of these ideas and you're telling them that those ideas aren't good enough, eventually that writing muse inside of you says, well, I'm not going to fucking give you any stories anymore because you're no fun. You don't want to write them.
What's Can I explain further about what's going on in my head?
Sure.
So I get ideas about stories. Um, Recently, I had an interesting story idea that popped into my head of a secret race of fallen angels amongst slightly future society that I was thinking about.
That sounds awesome.
Um, but it's like the idea comes in an instant. My brain will see like storylines within the concept, within the idea, within the world that are like, wow, that looks really cool, that's interesting, but I don't even have time to be able to come up with words for what happened. And then after I have the initial idea and inspiration, and these happen pretty often, after I have that, then immediately my brain starts going into like logistics mode, and it's like, well, then you'll have to like write it all out and come up with a world and name the characters and determine how the stuff's going
Why
to go
can't
down.
you just write down what it is you get?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. I for years now, you've seen some of my lists of ideas, random ideas that I have. I've been trying to record some of the ideas, but like I never sit down to fucking flesh any of that shit out.
So is that the part that you're afraid to do?
I think I'm afraid to have any more new ideas and write about them because I haven't fleshed out any of the old ones.
Mm.
Maybe.
I have a lot of that same thing, but like you can go from my perspective, you can go one of two ways with it. You can either a just enjoy being an idea producer and accept that you're never going to flesh any of them out,
Mm.
and that's totally valid. Like there are plenty of people that do that, and it's fine. Or you have to accept that you're never going to get to all of them, but if you do want some of them, any of them, to be fleshed out, you have to pick favorites.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you have to say to the other ones that they're never getting done, but you have to accept the possibility is that they may never get done, and you pick one that you say, I definitely want you to get done, and so I'm working on you right now.
Right. Yeah.
There's no wrong answer.
No, no, I get it. Maybe it's just my fear of commitment.
Maybe, maybe.
Because I do kind of feel about it in a little bit in the way that I feel like I'm Polly.
But what do you think is going to happen if you choose a story out of all of the stories? What are you afraid of happening? What's the worst possible scenario?
That whatever story I choose will quickly run out of juice, and then I'll only think of other stories that I didn't choose.
I mean, that's not so bad. That happens to me all the time. You see me do that all the time.
Constantly.
What do you tell me to do when I'm in that place?
I usually think I tell you to follow your inspirations and
Mm-hmm.
just go with whatever's on the docket right now.
Mm-hmm. And basically, that has helped me to learn how to be able to wrap up a story, not just not just when I'm finished with it, but also like I I have this habit of when I'm writing a story, like the Void Wizard story. I'm still somehow writing the motivation and inspiration to do that one. Although it does come and go in its severity, its intensity, but it's still there.
Mm.
But each chapter is its own unit. Like I finished the chapter, I'm done. I could in theory release it if my inspiration decides, well, I'm not going to work on that. Then I can work on something else and then years later could come back and be able to pick this back up because that was always my biggest problem.
Mm.
Was not in letting it go, but knowing that I could pick it up again at any time.
Right. Understood. Okay.
But does that sound like something that you might want to work on doing? Like, would that help?
I don't know. Maybe. Because I do. So I did write that one tiny little piece of fiction that was like a 2-minute read.
Are you talking about the one that you published?
Mm-hmm.
The Queen one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
I
like
like that one.
the will of the mother or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. It was good. I'll put a link to that.
You don't have to do that.
No,
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 that's
I
fine.
have to. No,
Um,
it's good. I like it.
and I like it too. It took me. It didn't take me long to write, but it was another one of those times when I had a very specific idea and I sat down to write that specific idea. And I moderately like what I produced. Uh,
I don't even remember having any all that much to edit out of it either.
you're excited about it.
I
I
was
remember
super. I'm still excited about it. I love that. Like it's perfect as its own little snippet. It never has to be anything more. But should you choose to add more to it, I'm excited for that too.
that. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I like it. I've helped people with their writing in the past. I've written a couple of poems over the years. Like I feel like I could do it and get something out of it, but I just feel like there's this block of. I mean, everyone feels a bit of imposter syndrome, right?
All the time.
But like, I don't even know what would make it easier for me. I don't know what set of circumstances would would make it feel like I can facilitate that. Like, I have another direction to go, but go ahead. What were you gonna say there?
Unpopular opinion, why does it need to be easier? Why can't it just be hard and you accept that it is hard and that be your experience?
Fucking valid, I guess. Like I do other things like that are just hard to do. Quit smoking.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes you want to do a thing, but you're like, this is too hard. I can't do it right now. I don't have the spoons. That's okay. That is your inner voice saying, this isn't the time.
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. It's advice I've given you before.
It is. It is.
But I wonder if I'm distracting myself. I wonder if, because I'm pretty active in um, some social communities online, and like, I mean, I have to go to work, right?
Unfortunately.
And so I was doing the social thing to work on being more social because I miss people to an extent. I missed people to an extent. I'm really happy with the communities that I've got, but I don't know that I have the free time to do both. To like actually sit down and really write and to also be social. That's probably just like a defeatist thought though, I would think.
You can't do both at the same time.
Valid.
But you can't do any two things at the same time.
Well,
Well, I mean, not completely.
no. Not in
You
a
can
focused
eat
manner.
and watch a movie, but technically you're not fully attending to you eating, and there's some attention that is not going to you watching the movie. So, you know, it's not it's not 100% on either one.
Mm.
So like, yeah, you could when you do the thing where you lurk, you could turn down the volume and then write while you let your view kind of count for them. But you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be able to interact
Right.
because that's going to interrupt your writing flow.
And I used to be a lot more of a lurker, but like there's now like there's now like three communities that I wanna be supportive in, and so being supportive a lot of times is to be active in the chat. I mean, and I've noticed that just one person being active in chat makes other people that are lurking feel more comfortable to interact with chat, and when chat continues to move, the streamer feels happier about the experience and wants to continue to stream, and
Yep.
that's how growth happens on that platform.
But it's not all your job.
But it's not my fault or responsibility. I get that. I understand that as well. I mean, right now, one of those communities is currently streaming right now. So, like, there's a part of me that is like, I'm letting them down, but, like, that's ridiculous.
What if, I mean, have you considered, if there's three communities, right? Have you considered, like, maybe giving them their own days? Where, like, you're active in one, for this day. That's the day that you go all in with that community. You take a day off and do whatever comes to your mind, whether that's right or just, lose yourself in a binge watching session or
Yeah.
music yourself to a meditative bliss, whatever. And then the next day it goes to, one of the other creators, and you just put yourself wholly into that community. And then the day after that, like,
That's a valid way of doing it.
Stagger it so that you're not overloading yourself on these responsibilities that you've handed yourself to help
for
these
no
other
reason.
people.
Which they
You
didn't
have
ask.
a reason.
Huh?
You have a reason. It's not for no reason. There's a reason.
Well, like, they didn't ask for this. Like, there's no reason that I have to be
No,
doing
but you
it.
obviously want to. And I don't want to say that, like, you should stop doing it because you don't have to do it. Like, there's plenty of things we don't have to do and we want to do them, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it sounds like you also want to write.
I do. I think that that's the age-old problem that I've had, where I focus my attention and support on others instead of on myself.
Mhm.
And I think that were I to focus my attention and help on myself, then the direction right now would be writing. Because, like, I don't know.
Is there part of this fear that, like, you're worried if you actually start giving yourself that space and writing as much as you want to, that you won't be there to support these communities that you want to support? Is that a concern?
There's a little bit of a concern there, yeah. That they'll feel the loss, you know? I'd be sad.
You don't think they can sustain their communities
Well,
without you?
It's not, not trying to say that I'm integral to their situation. I'm not at all, that sounds real narcissistic.
Well, but no, but that's what you want. You want to put your attention into them to help them grow. But
yeah,
if there's a part of you taking out any sort of judgment or whatever about your thoughts, if there's any part of you that thinks, if I'm not here, their community is going to fall apart, that can absolutely cause a fear to do anything else.
Yeah, and it's not like,
It's not like that.
but okay, maybe somewhere in a corner of my mind that fear does exist, that I do have the power over everything, that that narcissistic corner of my mind maybe exists, possibly. Sorry about that, but that is possible. But I know that they're totally fine without me. Like,
Do you?
I do.
I mean, when was the last time that you stepped back and just you just watched? You just didn't interact.
Every week I do that still.
So you don't interact with them at all.
No. How do I explain this? I do interact, yet within every week there are still periods of time where I come in and I don't say anything.
Yeah, see, I'm talking about going like weeks without interacting and just seeing what happens. Seeing if they can sustain themselves. If their community.
But what if they feel like I ghosted them?
You
It's a
can
little
tell them.
silly.
You can
It's a little
talk to them.
silly.
You
It's a little
can
silly.
tell them in the chat like I'm.
Wait, this isn't what we were going to talk about,
You
though.
can just say I'm backing away from being a consumer and I'm starting to work on producing my own content. So that means I'm not going to be as available. It's not that I'm ghosting you. It's not that I love you any less. I still, want you to be successful and I'll still come back here from time to time, but I won't be here as often. And they will totally understand.
That seems a little cringe even to say at
What?
all.
Why?
I don't know, because it seems like me by saying this is not what I wanted to talk about. I'm so uncomfortable and nervous now. Um, but like it seems like I'm putting a higher sense of importance on myself than maybe I deserve.
What do you mean?
Like they don't need to care that I'm leaving.
No, they don't need to. You're not telling them how to feel about it. You're just for the people who do care. You're
Okay.
telling those people, and the people that don't care can be like, "Why the fuck? Whatever. I don't care." You know?
Okay.
You can't make them feel.
That's not. It's not really what I meant.
But if you're worried about the people that do care feeling lost without knowing what happened to you, then why wouldn't you say what you're doing? Like it's not self-important to tell people, hey, just in case anybody's wondering, I'm going to be kind of gone for a little bit. And here's my reasons why.
Okay. You think so, huh?
I do.
Okay.
I mean,
Sorry.
I feel like people have done that in my Discord channel, and my Discord channel is not very big at all, and I don't know that there's any of us that are super concerned about this person responding to that person. Like it's too small for that. Like we haven't really built up the kind of community that you're I don't know what to call them without calling them out. So the communities you're talking about, those are bigger communities than Monster Alley.
Well, there's well, there's one of them is significantly larger. One of them is very new, but still like a bit larger. One of them is not much bigger.
Doesn't really matter because like if somebody in Monster Alley was just going to be absent for a while, like I'm pretty sure Sieran has actually said something about
Sure.
like he's been really busy and hasn't really had a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
I don't consider that to be him being self-important or ascribing too much importance to himself.
I don't either. This doesn't happen when I look at other people. It's just me. When I look at me, then I see that, and I'm self-important. I would never attribute
that means
that
that
to
you're
anyone
looking
else.
at yourself in a funhouse mirror.
Yes.
And looking
all
at
the
everybody
time.
else through a window.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to straighten out the funhouse mirror.
It's difficult, isn't it?
It is difficult, especially when you keep trying to scrunch it up again.
Well.
And be like, what are you doing to my mirror?
That's what I'm used to. Fucking mirrors.
Yeah, but it's wrong. The mirror is wrong. What you're seeing in it is wrong. Let me flatten it out for you. Stop fighting. So writing.
Yeah.
You do not look happy at all with the direction this went.
Well, I kind of knew that this was going to happen because, like, this was really me deciding to be vulnerable, like a real vulnerability moment for me, because, like, I'm kind of struggling with the idea. Like, I'm afraid to go in any specific direction. I don't know if I have the right to do certain things, which is a silly thing to say, objectively speaking. So
we can talk about those.
we have been. That's what we're talking about now. What we have been talking about.
I don't remember you saying that you didn't have the right to do something. So.
Well, that's still been that's been part of how I feel.
What is it you don't feel like you have the right to do? Remember
when I said something about imposter syndrome? Like
yeah, I don't think you really went into that.
I didn't, but that's what I'm talking about. Is that I don't.
Can we talk about it?
I don't know that I feel like it just doesn't feel like I have the right to take up the fucking disk space to write stories that come out of my head. I don't know, dude. Like, it's just a thought.
So sometimes I'm a little arrogant. But I've dealt with this, with that aspect, because I have had that happen. Like it's weird because like sometimes I'm like, yeah, everything I write is awesome, and then other times I'm like, everything I write is shit.
Mm-hmm. But it's not even about. Go ahead. Sorry.
But when I'm in those moments where I'm like, everything I write is shit, why am I even wasting the space with anything that I've written? The thing that comes into my brain that helps me push the publish button is to recognize that the things that are coming out of my head aren't actually mine. I am a channel, I'm a conduit. The universe is expressing itself through me, and I put a flavor on it that is uniquely me, but that is all. I mean, the majority, like 99% of it, is me doing my best to translate what the universe is giving me. That's it.
That's a real helpful bit of advice for most people.
But for you, it means nothing, and
No, it's
it's
horrible because
meaningless.
it's horrible because what you're saying is that all of the art comes from a different source to begin with, and so if I open myself up as the conduit, that means I'm stealing it from someone else.
That's not how it works, though.
No, I know that's not how it works. I'm just, trying to express it for my prime. I don't think that there's a lot of people that would feel this way, so it's not really terribly important to talk about.
If you put a colander, right? You put a colander underneath the kitchen sink.
Uh-huh.
When it comes out of this hole over here, do you feel like that's stealing the water from it coming out of this hole over there?
Maybe.
But the water's constantly running. It's still coming out in that hole too. It's
Right.
coming out of all the holes
And
equally,
depending on
consistently.
how the holes feel about each other, the fact that we're talking about water means that the holes at the bottom of the colander are going to get a lot more water through them than the holes that go towards the rim of the colander.
Okay,
And
we're going to
so
switch the analogy. We're going to switch the analogy
wait,
to a shower head.
why?
To a shower head. When the water is on, when it's coming out of all of the holes, do you feel like it coming out of one of the holes is stealing the water from another hole?
Why do you ask?
Because the way the universe works is it's constantly trying to express itself through all of us equally all the time. That's the pressure we all feel to be ourselves, to do stuff, to to be spiritual or not spiritual, like whatever it is that you feel forced to do, or that you feel that pressure of like just to be alive. It, like, there's this fundamental element that's coming from the universe. It's like, I want to express myself through you. You are this one specific thing of the infinity that I am.
Yeah, it's like.
And when you clog yourself up, that doesn't mean that you're giving more water or more ideas to other people.
No, I know.
It means that you are closing yourself off from being expressed.
Valid.
And let's look at it from a different angle. How many renditions of Little Red Riding Hood are there?
14.
And how many more do you think will happen before that story becomes lost to time?
It's a sad thought, isn't it?
The fact remains, you can tell the exact same story an infinite number of ways. And even if we all only ever wrote Little Red Riding Hood, each version would have its own unique spin on it.
That's true.
So whatever idea comes to you doesn't have to die with you.
It's an interesting writing idea exercise, isn't it?
To write Little Red Riding Hood.
Everybody write a specific scene from a specific book from your own perspective. It's a very interesting writing.
I came across an exercise that basically said that. That was like for creative writing class. Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was interesting too. Like the whole premise was like in a class of like 15 to 20 people, like everybody choose one scene or like one writing prompt kind of thing to write about, and then like read all of it aloud and see where the variations are, the differences in style and in ideas. And yeah, it's really interesting to think about because we're all different. We're all not the same, but we are from the same source, and the same creative source tries to move through us,
Sure, sure.
and it is very happy to do that when it can.
Mm-hmm.
And when it can't, it doesn't like it so much.
Yeah, it really
Ooh,
sounds like
excuse me,
my
that was
issue
a
is
burp.
like completely confidence based. I just
Don't feel like it's good enough.
it's not even about the quality of it. It's about whether or not I'm allowed to. It's this weird
I
fucked up.
give you permission.
Thank you. It doesn't help. I don't know who I'm looking for permission from.
That's probably where you need to go, is figure out who it is you need the permission from in order to allow yourself to do it,
Yeah,
because
well, ultimately,
you're already allowed to do it.
I know. Ultimately, it's got to. The answer has to be me. There's no other answer to that question, logically speaking. But I have to somehow find that answer emotionally.
Do you intellectually right now allow yourself to do it? To write whatever comes to your head?
It depends.
Why?
I don't know.
Why?
But
Like
I'm trying
intellectually.
I'm trying to be transparent and real.
I mean, that's fair.
And my brain said
That's
it
fair.
depends.
That's fair. That's fair. But your brain isn't just the intellectual part. I was just appealing to the intellectual part. Can you allow
The
yourself?
objective part, like the
Part of
emotionless
you
part.
that is logical and emotionless.
Okay.
Can you logically and emotionlessly allow yourself to be a writer?
Probably.
You can't even come to a yes for that. Just logically
I'm sorry.
of knowing that you aren't stopped by anybody.
So look, here's where I'm at. All
and
right.
logically, you're not taking away from anybody.
Right. Logically, those two things are true. Yes. Um, and if we were talking about a hypothetical person, then absolutely write whatever you want. Go for it. See what happens. Even like the most horrible shit is probably going to find an audience. I'm sorry to say.
Especially if it has sex in it.
So like, you know,
Yeah, but then why not
yes,
you?
but I can't seem to achieve objectiveness with regard to myself because that tiny little thought of, but what if I come up with something really terrible to write?
Doesn't
But
matter.
what if
So?
what if I um what if I break something?
What if you don't think about publishing it? What if you just think about writing it? Can you allow yourself just to write it without putting it out in the world?
Maybe that's where I should
maybe you have
start.
to do steps there, and build up to being able to put it out in the world, because like that's an understandable bar. A lot of people have that bar. But if you can't put it out into the world, then maybe just allow yourself to just write it and have it. Can you allow yourself to write it without giving it to the world?
I think I've been preventing myself from writing it without the intention of publishing because I have the thought of like, well, what's the point of writing it?
Yeah, I have that problem too. But the point is that
but I think I
you're
need
blocked.
that step.
Yeah. If you don't take that step, then you're trying to jump too high, and you're never going to get there.
Yeah.
Your legs just aren't that long.
No. So, I think I really need to do some sort of a free writing session that I don't intend to publish.
That doesn't mean that later on you can't decide to publish it or take from it
But
to make things to publish.
Yeah, but you've been on the other side of this to where like we can't talk about the possibility of future publishing because I have to make the decision now to not publish it to be able to write it from the perspective of something I'm not going to publish.
Granted, but I had to do this work inside of me that was like, but that doesn't mean that it's off limits and that I need to burn it.
I know, we've been there too, yeah. I don't think that's going to be an issue for me, but I understand that why you needed to go there. I get it. Okay, cool. Did I make a fool of myself? Are we cool?
No, this is wonderful. This is great content.
You don't think that this was like silly or horrible in some way?
Why do you think it's silly or horrible? Other people have the same issue. Other people have had this exact same issue.
I don't know. It just might be. I don't really think that it is silly or horrible, if I'm being completely honest. But like, I don't want to judge anybody that does think that it's silly or horrible either. I don't know, dude. Like, this is just the world I live in.
I think if somebody is saying that this is silly and horrible, they're not being vulnerable and don't belong here. This is about vulnerability.
This is a podcast
This
about
is a
vulnerability.
podcast about vulnerability. If people
That's
are
true.
saying that it's silly and horrible, they're not being vulnerable. They're just insulting people that are being vulnerable. And I'm going to protect the ones that are being vulnerable versus the ones that are just attacking because they can't be vulnerable themselves.
Hmm. Valid. I have a hard time attacking anybody
Yeah, except yourself.
except myself. How true. Okay, well that's my topic.
That's your topic.
I think that that's about as much as I got in it.
And to fill the space up, you can always jump onto my current perspective shift ship. That's what I was trying to go for. And just decide that all of your work is terrible and they're all going to be failures, and that's okay because maybe that's what you're supposed to do.
Hmm. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
I mean, I do, but I don't really know what to say about it.
Hmm.
I'm still pretty excited about the perspective because it gives me good feels. What is happening now?
Nothing to worry about.
Oh, I see.
Um, but yeah, well, if you're interested in what we're talking about, feel free to check out Tam's most recent articles.
Is that where we're going to go with it? Okay, we can make it a mystery.
Oh, did you want to say more? You're free
No,
to
I
say
mean,
more.
I don't know what to
I
say
mean,
about it. I just it's liberating to not feel the pressure constantly on me of like having to create a result,
right.
which is something I have no business pretending to control in the first place. Because we don't get that right. We don't have the right to expect a result to happen because we're not gods.
No. And for the result that you're talking about to even matter, that means there has to be a lot of people that it doesn't happen for.
Right. And maybe that's my lot in life where like I get to be one of those statistics that ends up not happening
Right.
because it has to.
Yeah. And that thought hurts so much.
It has hurt. It has hurt for a really long time. But since I can think about it in the way that me failing over and over and over again reveals a part of me that I would never have been capable of seeing otherwise.
So true.
I mean, even if I can never succeed with anything, I know that I'm the kind of person that can never, I can't give up. Like, I can't. I have to keep going.
Hmm.
And you've seen me at my lowest points with that, where, it was something I was really pissed off about, trying really hard to convince myself to not keep trying
Right.
time and time again.
Feeling like all that you are left is just a bag of skin and bones that's being somehow manipulated by an otherworldly force.
Right.
That was what you felt like.
Yeah.
For a moment there.
For a lot of moments there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But I like your new trajectory. I think that it's a good one. Hopefully, I will start a trajectory.
I mean, technically, you're moving through time, so you have a trajectory.
Sure, whatever.
You just haven't figured out what trajectory you want.
Yeah. I'm moving through life in a few of the dimensions, but there's a couple dimensions that are begging for me to choose a direction. Begging.
Begging.
But, apparently I like to be begged to.
You gotta allow it. You gotta allow it.
Yeah.
Will you allow yourself to choose a direction?
I don't know. We'll see.
Could you ever get to a yes?
Part of it is because you just want me to say the word yes. It's like
No, I want you to allow
control...
yourself something.
It's like you want to control me. And so part of me is being a brat and just not allowing it to get there.
Actually, my therapist introduced me to demand avoidance.
Okay.
That's a thing, demand avoidance, where you avoid doing something that is demanded of you.
Mm.
And she suggested that I have a certain type of like pathological demand avoidance. Like everybody does a demand avoidance to some degree.
Sure.
But when it becomes pathological, it's something that you can't really control, or like it spins out of control.
Right.
And we were talking about it, like me not being able to give up. That's kind of one of them. But like the one we were talking about was when somebody gives me like a series of tasks. If it's one simple task, then I'm usually not avoidant. But if it's a series of tasks of like, you know, here's how you create your business.
Yeah,
You do these exact steps, and if you just do exactly what I did, it'll work for you. I will start trying really hard to do exactly what they did, exactly as they lined it out. And along the way, I will have to change it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling her, like, I will get through, and when I reach that step where my brain is like, no, we have to do this differently, I have quit things because my mind said I had to change it, and I was so pissed off that I had to change it that I was like, well, if I can't do it the way they said that I should do it, I'm not going to do it at all.
Right.
And she was very it was a weird thing for her, because I'm like, because she thought I was saying that, you know, I would quit doing it if I couldn't do it my way. And I'm like, no, I was fighting myself. Yeah. I can't stop myself from doing things my way. Like, I've tried.
Mm-hmm.
And I get really upset with myself with this whole, like, no, you have to do it your way. You can't do it that way because of this. And it's like, that's not a good reason. I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I remember seeing it, but you know, self-awareness is, I think, benefiting you quite a lot. You know, allowing you to be a little bit more comfortable within your skin and within your art, and that's amazing.
I mean, that's fair, but there's also a point where self-awareness is just too much. Like, I'm trying to find the ways to get rid of self-awareness a little bit.
Sure, I understand.
If you were a little bit less aware of yourself, maybe you'd let yourself write.
Maybe.
You know?
Maybe I should only write. Maybe I should start, like, drinking once a month and writing while I'm drunk.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I'm interested to see what I would produce.
I mean, of course it would help. That's what all, like, famous writers used as their crutch to get through. But
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I had no idea.
Edgar Allan Poe died of consumption. Or liver damage? I don't know. Whatever. He was an alcoholic through and through.
Sure. Understood.
I don't remember the other ones. But I know most of the authors that you have names for, like, they were alcoholics.
Okay.
It was kind of bad. Like, artists in general, I think. Like, because, like, even painters and stuff, like, they're often alcoholics, too. Not, well, I don't know about today, in today's, but, like, the historical ones. It was pretty common for art to be associated with alcohol.
Sure. Okay. Right on. Well, how do you feel about our scuffed, off-topic episode?
I feel pretty good.
Of the podcast. I think.
What do you think? I mean, it was mostly about you.
Yeah, no. God, I feel like
you
that
look
fucking
exhausted.
Asshole for taking up the whole episode. Anyway.
I think it's amazing. You guys made me do an entire episode about me, so.
How many of me are there?
What?
Who, along with me, made you do that?
You and you could.
Oh, okay.
Because you all were all like, yeah, your experience would be interesting. And
your experience is interesting.
So I did it. So now it's your experience that's interesting.
And I'm kind of proud of myself for coming up with the idea to do it in the first place.
I am too.
So, you know, it's good, but I am fucking exhausted. Like, just worn out and ready to be rolled up and put away.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, cool.
Cool. How do we end these?
So, yeah, I think that next week we'll just pop right back into what we've been doing and see where we're at and what we're talking about, and get back to our regularly scheduled program. But then again, maybe not. Maybe we'll just be chaotic and be crazy again. It'll be fun.
You know, vulnerability is very chaotic.
It can be, absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that that will do it for us. Thank you very much for being here and for listening to us. If you're brand new, welcome in. If you've been here for quite a while, we appreciate your retention. And I think that probably does it. I'm Eternally Mortal, and I hope you find smiles this day.
And I'm the Accidental Monster. You can find us both on medium.com. And until next time, follow yourself, always.